A global pandemic. Worldwide protests. J.K. Rowling being a TERF. We live in a world divided, but there's one thing on everybody's mind. It's June already? This year is absolutely flying by, and I gotta be honest, there have been more things on my mind than music for the last couple of months. Usually I'm pretty good about keeping up with the year's big releases and like forming my opinions on them and stuff. But when it comes to 2020 and making a mid-year favorite albums list like I would any other year, I am at a loss. Stuff from this year I've been listening to is like these three things, and then stuff from other years I've been listening to is like all this. It's been really easy for me just to sit in stuff that I'm kind of comfortable with, stuff that I know, and focus on things that I think are more important, which are going on right now. But that means that halfway through the year, I've missed out on a ton of really great and important art. So this week I'm embarking on a journey where I'm going to try to listen to some of the best music of 2020 and see if it changes my list of my favorite stuff. I really love the website Album of the Year. It's where I write reviews, read reviews, and learn about new music. So what I'm gonna do this week is go through the 2020 top 10 albums based on user score, because who looks at the critic score? And every day I'm gonna listen to one of these albums and then try to give my thoughts on here, and then at the end I'll rank them all and see if any of them have had a lasting effect on me. I may hate music by the end of this week because a lot of times albums take me a couple of listens for me to enjoy them, but I think this could also be pretty fun, and it will give me something to do, like go out on a walk and listen to these albums instead of sitting on Twitter all day. So I hope that I talk about at least one album that you guys are interested in. Let me know what you think about these albums in the comments below, and also check the description for more resources relating to the Black Lives Matter movement that's going on right now. Okay, so here's the list of albums that I'm going to be using. I'm sure that one will drop in the middle of me doing this that breaks into these top 10, but this is what I'm looking at for the top 10 albums of 2020. So I have heard 3 of these albums. I've heard Sawayama. If you want to see my reaction to that, you can click here. I've heard Fetch the Bolt Cutters, and I've heard Run the Jewels 4. So when we get to those, I'll talk about them, obviously, but those won't be like a first reaction like the rest of them. So the first album we're going to be listening to is Natalia Lafourcade. Oh god. Is Natalia Lafourcade Un Canto por Mexico, Volume 1. Never heard of this artist in my life. It has an average rating of 80 with 105 reviews. So yeah, I'm going to give this a listen and let you guys know what I think. Are you kidding me? I loved this. This album is freaking gorgeous. I just listened to this album on a walk and I was just going along and I felt like people were reaching out their windows and like waving and singing to me. There is just like love and joy pouring out of every single song. Every song is progressive. The singing is beautiful. There's so much great instrumentation. I'm baffled right now. How have I never heard of this? The one obvious downside to this album is it's entirely in Spanish, so I kind of have no idea what it was about. I heard a lot of nacimiento, muchas sueñas. I think it's about like someone's connection to their home, in this case, Mexico, but I could totally be off base. All I know is that just listening to this was like pure joy, and I might be an idiot, like the lyrics could actually be really sad, but I took a couple of notes while I was listening to this. Mexicana hermosa, literally most beautiful thing ever. Una vida gives me Mario Galaxy vibes. The singing on Ya No Vivo made me want to melt. There's like this one part where they like laugh and scream in Mi Religión, and it made me literally jump because I thought that there was someone like screaming next to me, so that happened. Para que sufrir is so gorgeous, I hate you, is what I wrote. I really can't wait to read the lyrics to this and find out like kind of how the album pieces together, but as of right now, oh my goodness, this was a great experience. 85. Alright everyone, it is day 2 of this little challenge thing that we've got going on, and the list has already changed. So Un Canto por Mexico, which I listened to yesterday, was at number 10. Now it's number 8. And the new number 10 is Mac Miller's Circles. So originally I was gonna listen to number 9, The Strokes, The New Abnormal today, but I think now I'll just screenshot this list as it is and just go from the bottom. I know that's really confusing, but it's just the way I think I can do it where I won't mess up anymore. I'm actually quite nervous to listen to Circles. I kind of missed the whole Mac Miller thing when I was growing up. I didn't really get into rap until he was dropping like Good AM. I'm nervous to listen to this just because I listened to a couple of the singles and found them to be really emotionally powerful. And I want to do him justice because I'm not too familiar with his catalog, so I don't want to, make a poor judgment. This album also got really great reception, so in that vein, I'm really excited to listen to it. I think that right now I could use just some nice neo soul, even if it's gonna be sad. I'd like to just listen to some chill rap and see where it takes me. So I'm gonna listen to this album and I'll update you guys when I'm done. Everybody's gotta move. Yeah, I loved it. Circles is really interesting because if you didn't know about what happened to Mac, it almost sounds like a man that's just reached a kind of peace. Even though there's a lot of really sad lyrics, very prophetic lyrics, it still feels like Mac has a lot figured out, even though he's talking about experiences with depression. I found there to be kind of an uneasy, calming quality to a lot of the songs here. They just kind of hold you in whatever space they're in, and Mac just kind of gently sings or raps over these sort of understated instrumentals, and it's really effective. It made me feel kind of at peace, which was very strange knowing how much turmoil he must have been going through when he was making this album. I definitely think that the second half of this album is stronger than the first half. I loved pretty much every song I can see on, everybody on, I guess. I really liked the influence of kind of the guitar music, the slower rock influence. But even some stuff like Blue World is just a type of instrumental that I hate. It feels very like 2015 to me, like it could be something that Kyle rapped over or something. But Mac Miller just has so much more control, so much more love in his words. It's a pretty easy listen. Nothing super crazy that stuck out at me, but it just has a wonderful, consistent tone through the whole thing. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm feeling an 80 on this one right now. Alright dudes, it is day 3. As you can see, quarantine hair is getting the best of me. But the hipster look is actually working in my favor today because it is time for the Strokes album, The New Abnormal. I'm really excited to listen to this one because one of my good friends is a huge Strokes fan and I pretty much know nothing about them except people think this album is good. I don't know if it's a good starting place for the band, but if I'm gonna do this challenge, I gotta listen to it, so I'm gonna check it out and give you my thoughts after I listen, so here we go. Life is too short, but I will live for you. So, here's the thing about this little experiment. I've chosen to listen to a bunch of pretty much universally acclaimed albums, and I've liked them all so far. Yeah, The New Abnormal was another fantastic first listening experience. I think that the highlight of this thing for me was Julian Casablancas' singing voice. Throughout every song, specifically on Selfless, and then on the last couple songs, I forget their names right now, but his voice is just incredible, piercing through all these instrumentals, and just, it has so much power, but so much control at the same time. I also thought that the sound palette was impressively consistent throughout this whole thing. There are these really cool, kind of crunchy analog synths playing along with these kind of indie rock guitars. I think that obviously this requires a few more listens, because I think that the subject matters were pretty similar throughout the album, but I wasn't catching them as much as I wanted to. But yeah, I really enjoyed this, and I can see myself listening to it through the rest of the summer months and probably even further. I'm feeling like an 80 to 85 on this one right now. Alright, it's day 4, time for another album. Today we've got Ichiko Aoba with Gift, live at Sogetsu Hall. I'm actually familiar with Ichiko Aoba. I've heard one of her albums, the Gorgeous QP, which I thought was just very quaint, very simple, and very beautiful. So I'm really excited to listen to this album to get a little bit more of that type of feel, but I am nervous because this album is an hour and 18 minutes long. If it's all great music, there's no problem, but when I was listening to QP, I found it to get a bit samey after a while, which I know is in part due to the fact that I can't understand the language, so that's gonna kind of put a barrier to my enjoyment. But the music is very pretty, her vocal lines are always gorgeous, and this has a lot of high ratings, so I'm excited to see what happens. So I'm gonna check it out now and give you my thoughts. Haunting. Playful. Beautiful. An hour and 18 minutes long. I'm kind of torn on this one because I think that if I was a diehard fan of Ichiko Aoba, I would have loved this. All of the performances here are really good and they're excellently recorded, but this album really is Ichiko plus guitar for 80 minutes. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but as someone who isn't a huge fan, there isn't much reason for me to choose to listen to this album over any of her other recorded works. The songs I did recognize were performed beautifully, but the arrangements were so similar to the recorded versions that there was just no real reason to pick this album over that one. I also think that some of the allure of this being a live album is lost on me. Because I don't speak Japanese, there are these kind of like spoken word, Ichiko addresses the crowd moments, which I'm sure would be like really cute and fun to listen to, but I just like have no idea what's happening, so I end up just kind of skipping the last minute of some of these songs. Yeah, if you're a huge fan, definitely check it out. These are just some wonderfully performed versions of some of your favorite songs. But if you're someone like me who's not as familiar with her work, I would recommend just listening to the studio recorded albums. Feeling a 7 on this one. Alright, it's a new day, time for a new album, and today is the first time where the next album on the list is one that I've already heard, Rina Sawayama's Sawayama. If you don't already know how I feel about this album, here's a preview. Ready? If you want to see more of my thoughts on this album, you can click here to see me do a reaction of it. So for today, we'll skip that one and move on to the next album on the list, number 5, which is Freddie Gibbs and the Alchemist's Alfredo. This one's sitting at an 81 with almost 1,000 reviews. I'm really excited to listen to this one. Everything I've heard from Freddie Gibbs I've pretty much enjoyed. And obviously Alchemist is an incredible producer, so I have nothing but high hopes for this one. So I'm gonna check it out and I'll let you guys know what I think.
Yeah, don't lose the beat, motherfucker. Take that garbage out.
I mean, what did I expect, right? While not particularly groundbreaking or interesting, Alfredo is insanely consistent the whole way through. Really great beats, catchy flows, awesome rhymes, just so much good stuff coming out of this thing. I don't think it blew me away like it did a lot of other people just because it isn't like super revolutionary or anything, it's just more good rap music from Freddie Gibbs. But there are definitely a couple of songs here which will be in rotation for the whole summer, I can already tell. That Frank Lucas song, woo!
Lines to abuse us, now abuse y'all.
That is like one of the most sinister songs I've heard in ages. It's so good. And then there's Something to Rap About with Tyler, the Creator, which is just... I love explaining what I visualize when I listen to music. I think that's a really great way to get across the experience you're having to other people. And when Tyler's verse comes in, he talks about this song sounding like him jumping off the boat he hasn't bought yet. I can see that image so clearly. And then talking about how it's the boat he hasn't bought yet, like adding in that aspect of dreaming and aspiration. So sick. I can kind of see this being an album where I'll probably listen to like 3 or 4 songs off it a lot, and maybe not the whole thing as a project, but it definitely was a great experience to go the whole way through. For this one, I think I'm feeling like a 75. A solid project, didn't blow me away or anything, but a bunch of good songs which I'll probably be listening to for the rest of the year. And on the 5th day, he listened to another album. Next up, we've got Moses Sumney with Grae. Now, I know nothing about Moses Sumney. I don't think I've ever heard his music before. The only thing I know about Grae is that I tried to listen to the first part, got like 3 songs in, and wasn't really feeling it, so I stopped. But I'm gonna give it another go, and hopefully I like it more this time. Yeah, I'll give you my thoughts after I listen.
Say I wanna change you, that was never true.
Wow, dude. I had like a transcendent experience listening to this album. I was just riding my bike around my town listening to it, and it was pretty much empty, and the sun was setting, and there were parts of this album that made me feel like if I just let go of my bike, I could just fly into the sky. Seriously, this thing is so theatrical, so ethereal, but so personal. A lot of it is like why I love music. It's grand, it's quirky. There's moments that feel larger than life, but so much that feels so intimate about it. The one thing I was worried about with this album was that it would kind of falter off towards the end. I know it's a double album, but it is 20 songs and over an hour long. But while I was listening to it, I kept checking the track list. Okay, I'm at track 10, I'm at track 14, and I'm not bored yet. This thing held my attention for so long, and I can see why some people might appreciate either one half or the other. The first half is so bombastic and grand and outer spacey, and the second half is much more intimate, much more close quarters. They're very different, but there is a really nice consistency running through all these songs in terms of the theme and in terms of Moses Sumney's absolutely gorgeous voice. The singing on this thing is breathtaking. It's as transportative as it is comforting, and it's just beautiful. I think I was more engrossed in this album for the first 10 songs, just because there's a lot more wild song structure going on here, a lot more like crazy third verses and stuff. There's also a lot of merit to the second half, which definitely feels far more personal, and seriously, I could listen to Moses Sumney just sing with a guitar forever. There was a part of me that thought that this album could have ended with Bystanders, and then Me in 20 Years came on, and I was hooked again. I was like, oh, I want more, and then the last 5 tracks, it does kind of fizzle out. I think that it's tough when so many of these songs just have such an exciting drive to them, and then the last 5 are so understated. I think with repeat listens, I could grow to really love these songs, but as of right now, if the first like 14 songs of this album were just one album, it'd be like a 9+ for me. I also think I need more time to explore all the themes of gender binary, isolation, blackness. There's a whole lot going on here, and I barely caught any of it. But I did love how story-focused this album was. I loved songs like Two Dogs and Me in 20 Years, which just really wrapped up nicely and told a really compelling story within one track. I don't know, I was really blown away by this thing. It was probably my favorite first listen experience of any album this year. I think I said that like for another album on this list, but I promise this one was great. But I can't wait to keep listening to it. I'm gonna give it an 85 right now with room to grow in the future, but yeah, I love this thing. Alright everyone, it's day 6. I have gone full Little House on the Prairie, and today is actually the last day I'm listening to an album I haven't heard yet from this list. And the album I'm listening to today is Set My Heart on Fire Immediately by Perfume Genius. Now, just like Moses Sumney, I have never heard anything from Perfume Genius before, but apparently I've been missing out because they have crazy high scores across the board on all of their albums, so I'm pretty excited. This album is also listed as art pop, and all you need is one look at my 2019 favorite albums list to know that, yeah, I'm excited to listen to this. So here we go, the last first listen of this video. I'm really excited, and yeah, I'll give you guys my thoughts after I go check it out. Hot take alert, hot take alert. Alright, it's much later in the day, obviously, and I'm sad to report that this just didn't really work for me. I can see why people would love it. There's great singing, there's a few really good songs on here. I really liked the sound palette, but it all didn't really come together as a cohesive experience for me. Now, I loved Blonde from the first time I heard it, but I know a lot of people took their time to kind of enjoy it, and I'm wondering if this album might be the same thing for me. I think it was a lot more understated than I was expecting it to be. There are a lot of passages between songs that are very low-key and slow. And while I may grow to find these to be very pretty, this first time around, I just found them to be a real momentum killer, unfortunately. It's just tough for me to gather my thoughts about this one because there wasn't anything I disliked. Like, everything sounds really good. it just really didn't hit me in any sort of way. Some songs were too long, some other ones were too short, for my taste at least. I'm feeling like a 65 on this one. I was kind of just waiting for it to be done by the last few songs. That wraps it up for the first listens for albums. Now all that's left is for me to talk about Fetch the Bolt Cutters and Run the Jewels 4, which I'll do tomorrow. Alright, now there's just 2 more albums to talk about. First up is Fiona Apple's Fetch the Bolt Cutters. This was my first Fiona Apple album, so another first experience with an artist like a few others on this list. And I was pretty much just blown away by this album. It sounds like it was made with just like a bunch of stuff in her house. There's this really cool percussion. Her vocal performances are like really crazy and wild. I love how story-driven a lot of the songs on this album are. It feels very theatrical with Fiona Apple giving these really impressive performances. Even though I've listened to this album a few times, I still feel like I don't fully grasp it, I guess. It feels like an album that's just so big in its ideas, and every time I listen I notice like, oh, another instrument or another little harmony or something. So I still think this one has time to grow on me, but right now I think it's like an 85-90. And finally, Run the Jewels 4. Now, I've heard all the Run the Jewels albums, but I've never been a huge fan of theirs. I think that they make great music and I really appreciate it, but I just don't find myself listening to Run the Jewels that much. And this album is pretty much more of the same. It's just really good hip-hop. Do I see why some people think it's album of the year? Yes, it's very topical, it's very hard-hitting, but for me, it doesn't do much more than serve as 11 great new Run the Jewels tracks. But even though it doesn't affect me that much, the 11 tracks that are here are still great, so it's an 8 for me. Alright, now I've got to rank these 10 albums. I'll try to do this quick because this video is already way too long. I'm sure no one's watching at this point. But yeah, I'm going to try my best to rank these and then give you my order at the end, and that'll be the video. So here we go, this is the hard part. Alright, I've completed my list. Now, just as a reminder, this is a list of the 10 albums that were on this, like, best of 2020 list, not necessarily my 10 favorite albums of the mid-year. Number 10, it's Gift. This album is good, like, objectively, but I just don't see myself coming back to it. But Ichiko, I promise I will listen to your next studio album, whatever it is. Number 9. Number 9 is Set My Heart on Fire Immediately. I didn't really like this one first listen, but the reason it's above Gift is I see myself, like, coming back to this in the future and giving it another try, so. Number 8 is Alfredo, an album that I definitely enjoyed, but doesn't really stick out to me as like album of the year material, just like some great rap music. Number 7 is Run the Jewels 4, kind of the same deal, just in like a different genre. Number 6, The New Abnormal by The Strokes. I really loved this listening experience. I was really impressed by the songwriting and specifically the sounds. I just loved like the synth work on this album, and I think I'm gonna be listening to it for a while. Number 5. Number 5 is Circles. This album was definitely emotionally impactful, had a lot of great songs, and I think that when you talk about music in 2020, Circles is gonna be brought up a lot as just being like a definite moment. Number 4. Number 4 is Un Canto por Mexico. I absolutely loved listening to this thing, and I think that I will continue to just love it on walks, on car rides. It's just a beautiful album, and I can't wait to explore it more and learn everything about it. Number 3. Number 3 is Fetch the Bolt Cutters. An amazing album, could even go up higher, but as of right now, just one that I think is really great, but has a lot more for me to learn about it. Number 2, Sawayama. Of course, I'd even surprise myself that I didn't put this at number 1. This album is explosive, diverse, amazing, and just like probably the most fun listen of the year so far. I adore this album. And number 1 is Grae. The reason that I put Grae at number 1 is because it is the album that I see capturing me the most for the rest of the year. Grae is just such like puzzle, I guess. There's so many interesting aspects to it, and the song structure, the singing is probably the best that I've heard this entire year. I just think that this album is the one that I'm probably going to come back to the most and just I want to learn about every nook and cranny of this album. But yeah, so that's what I thought about these albums. If you made it this far, let me know in the comments if you liked any of these albums, if you disagree with me, if you agree with me, whatever. And yeah, I'll see you guys in next week's video.